The time has finally come. You are about to dungeon master your very first session, your first one-shot, or maybe even your first campaign of Dungeons and Dragons. Your dungeon master is like, hey guys, we're done with the campaign. It was great. I'm glad you guys had fun. You know, next time we plan a session, we'll play some board games or something until I come up with something new. But you know what? You pipe up, and what do you say?
I want to try dungeon mastering.
This is the reaction of your forever dungeon master.
He wants to play.
He wants to play.
Preparation's difficult. There's a lot to think about. So we're going to take the weight off your shoulders, help you out with some easy steps and how we prepare for our adventures.
Everybody prepares a little bit differently. Kamo
Yes.
does it slightly differently than I do it. That's perfectly natural.
And you should.
You have to figure out what works well for you. Not everything is going to apply, but we hope this is really going to give you a good skeleton to go off of.
Yeah, or even take pieces of this skeleton and reform your own way of doing it. First thing I want to say, too, is I'd like to talk about the perceptions of other dungeon masters, right? Specifically, when you ask another dungeon master about this topic, they're always like, don't over-prep. One of their favorite things to say. And it's out of context, right? Because, like, what does that mean? What does don't over-prep mean?
Right. To you, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, to a new dungeon master, it's like, thanks.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of bad advice in a way. But the reason that dungeon masters say that is not because they don't want you to railroad your story. I think it's more because they don't want you to burn out instantly, too quickly, right? But I'm going to tell you that you should over prep on your first time because you need to know your boundaries and limits.
Yep.
Okay? Don't sell yourself short. Go the extra mile. Do too much. And then after you've run your first session, then you're going to realize like, oh, wow, okay, well, I didn't need to do 5 more encounters of what I've just done.
Sure.
And now you can take those things that you have done and just hold on to them. Use them later. Use them in a different campaign, whatever. You don't know how good of a dungeon master you can be without pushing yourself to the max at that first point.
Push it to the limit. That's the point of no return. I agree with pretty much all of that. If you feel comfortable prepping 10 encounters, like social encounters, combat encounters, exploration encounters, whatever, then prep 10. After you do 2 or 3 sessions, you realize that your group's only going through 1 to 3 encounters, dial it back.
Yeah.
That's really what that means. That's what over prepping means.
Players aren't going to know when you're over prepping.
No.
What comes with over prepping too is the tendency to want to use what you've created, regardless if the players have chosen or not.
Yeah, you feel like I've prepped this, we need to use it.
We need to use it.
Get rid of that mindset. That's bad to do. Never throw anything away. You can use it later in the campaign. You can retheme it, reskin it, maybe use it at a different part of the campaign.
Yeah.
Or if you're playing with a different group of players, use it then. Every single thing that you prep is creating a portfolio of usable ideas and things that can inspire you. So that's that. And the other good point I will raise about over prepping is it saves you time moving forward because you front load your campaign with so much prep work that your players are never going to get to all that. So when it comes time for your next prep session or your next few prep sessions, you've already got some good stuff ready to go.
You're like, this is going well. My players are kind of like choosing a few directions that I have planned for.
They've taken the bait.
And like next session, don't need to do so much, right? It's like, okay, I just need to fill out this encounter and we're good next week.
Yeah, that's happened to me a bunch of times, and that's the best.
Yeah.
You're like, sweet, I barely have to do any prep work this week. And they're never gonna know.
First place to start is your setting. Choose something that you would enjoy doing. Choose a setting that you feel comfortable, knowledgeable in. If you love Greek mythology or Mesopotamian mythology, then run a campaign in that type of setting.
In the very beginning, when you start to prep for a campaign, come up with as many ideas as you have. Write them all down. Doesn't matter how dumb they are. Literally just brainstorm, come up with a word cloud of ideas that you want to use. And then slowly whittle those down to the things that you're most interested in. Stick to things that you're inspired by. You're going to have a much easier time running horror campaigns or sci-fi campaigns or high fantasy, or a mixture of all three of those, if that's what you're into, if that's the type of media that you're consuming, or the books you're reading, that's media as well.
Consume media. Watch our Star Wars video. It's about taking scenes and taking inspiration from what you love.
Yep.
And turning it into your story.
We'll throw a link to that down in the nether realm below the video. If you're not coming up with something from Homebrew, figure out what you're going to run. Maybe you just bought a module. Maybe you bought one of the official Wizards of the Coast adventures. Figure that out beforehand, what you want to do, Homebrew or official or third-party adventures. But the thing that I always stress to people is, if you go that route, sort of skim through, read those adventures, you do not have to follow them wholesale. That is the big thing with those adventures.
Don't even need to read through the whole thing. You could just do the beginning, get a good idea for the start.
Sure, you can literally just rip pieces out of things that you like, or if you're reading this and you're like, I don't think that part's going to be good for my group, don't use it. Literally pick and choose stuff that makes sense. As a dungeon master, you'll be able to glue it all together because your players are not going to run through Ravenloft the exact same way that another group's going to.
Yeah.
Just know that it's okay. Know that it is very, very okay to snip things out, add things, whatever makes sense to the story. That's perfectly fine.
Typically I do force the players I know to play what I like to run, but sometimes I'll ask them, and it's a good idea to ask your players what they would like to do, because, you want your players to be hyped about what they want to play, and if you're going to continue to play a long time campaign, pick something that they're going to be hyped about, and if it fits in line with what you might want to do, or change it into something that interests you, kind of compromise in that way. Mm-hmm. That's a win-win for everybody.
For first-time dungeon masters, it can be a little demoralizing if you have a really cool idea.
Yeah, that's true.
But for the most part, I don't know. Sometimes I just be like, "This is what we're running, motherfucker."
Yeah. It's typically like, "I'm doing this, guys.
Yeah.
You in?"
Most of the time, your players are going to be into what you're into. I'm not necessarily more about the themes and stuff. I'm more about hey, I let them know beforehand. This is going to be a very role-playing heavy. We're going to be doing a lot of social encounters. There's a lot of intrigue and mystery and detective work, and not so much in terms of combat. Mm-hmm. I think that that's really important to let your players know, because they're going to be building characters, and you don't want some dude to just make a rage barbarian who's expected to be Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And that would be hilarious. He's just like,
it's real bad temper on the crime scene.
he just breaks his way to success somehow.
Also, as part of your asking your players what they'd like to run, I'd also be you can be well, that's cool, even though it's not what I want to do at all. And if that's so, then you just pitch them what you want to do, right? Pitch your campaign to them. I'm explaining the world of what type of game you'd be playing, right? And from that, players can start making their backstories. It's a good jumping off point for them, and then we'll come back to that later.
Sometimes your players aren't going to even be bothered to read a single paragraph, right? So instead, what I do, I give them 6 bullet points of, these are 6 truths that every single person born into this world are going to know. It's this dragon is the ruler, this is the religion, blah-blah-de-boo, boppity-bee.
It's the most basic knowledge of the setting in the world.
Yep, and then I let them build off of that.
Example is Dark Sun. The gods have left the world. There's rarely any metal or iron. Everyone is in leathers and stone bone obsidian, right? The city-states are ruled by sorcerer kings. These are points that everyone knows this is just what life is in your world.
So you won't be, it's things that they won't be surprised by.
Yes.
Every story has a beginning. Where are you going to start? When you start your campaign, where are your players going to begin? That's an important question that you need to ask yourself.
Where is that starting location? Where's the Shire? Pick your starting location for your players, the start of the adventure, and you want to flesh out everything around the immediate area. You don't have to know the whole world yet.
No,
right?
You definitely want to start small. Mm-hmm. Keep that it's one town and the surrounding area. That's all that your players need to be aware of. They can come from far away and they can have knowledge of the world, but you, as a dungeon master, just need to focus on this one starting location. Just because you create this location, though, that doesn't mean that you have to start in a tavern, starting in an inn or something like that, starting someplace safe. That can sometimes be boring, and it can sometimes be very slow and awkward. You don't have to start in an inn, you don't have to start in a tavern. Sometimes that can be very slow. It can be very boring for your players, especially if they're first-time players. Role-playing with a bartender and the chef.
I feel like also the players don't have any real need to meet each other in a situation that is safe and natural, right? Maybe they feel like it's forced. Right? It's like, okay, we're all going to walk into a bar and we're all going to sit at one table and talk to each other because, I mean, this is our party.
Something that I think works really well is to be like Star Wars and start in media res, where you start off in the middle of the adventure. So it is perfectly acceptable to have your players start off in danger. Maybe you start right off with a battle of some kind. Maybe they are all waking up and you're in a giant cauldron and you're about to be boiled and eaten by some sort of creatures. Make it exciting. The more intense and the more flavorful and drama you can build right off the rip, that's how you're going to hook your players. If you have an epic chase scene, something big, nasty, gnarly is chasing them right from the word go, your players are going to be hooked. They're going to be ready to go.
There's more of a reason for them to role play in that situation too. It's like if they were caught in that situation near the entrance to the keep or whatever, and they had no choice but to deal with it together.
Yep.
That ties them together instantly, right?
Sure. And I think getting a battle out of your way, it sort of alleviates a lot of tension.
It does, yeah. Jumping straight into combat.
People are more comfortable killing stuff than they are talking to people.
Just slash it out.
Yeah.
Darth Vader didn't meet Leia in a bar,
No! I'm a teetotaler!
NPCs, or non-player characters.
There we go.
All the fake people in the world that are you.
They're you now.
Starting from the big bad guy. The main villain that's could be started by you in this, established by you. Sometimes players will pick and create their own main villains. Those are kind of the best things, I feel like.
That's how I do it.
You
have two options. You either cook up your Darth Vader, Terminator,
Yeah.
Saruman from the beginning,
or you pick that creature that you want to really have as the big bad, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Maybe
Creature
a lich.
or humanoid villain. Humanoids are always the best because they get in your head and they talk to you, you know.
They taunt you. They kill your friends.
Yeah.
Kill your loved ones. The other thing you can do is have this sort of happen naturally. As they go on that first or second quest, they piss off somebody really bad.
Yeah.
Maybe you kill one of their lieutenants, or you accidentally take out this like harebrained scheme that they have, and now they are just like laser focused on you.
Or like they were kind of like low on the totem pole.
Sure.
When you double crossed them, and now they have kind of like leveled up with you and against you.
Sure.
Next time you see them, they
got some more
They're more powerful. They're determined to exact their vengeance on you. Like,
yeah, they're
that's always
tricked
fun
out
to
in
do.
magic gear. Do not write an entire story. Do not write a novel. Your players, one, are not going to want to go through that.
No.
And two, your average Dungeons and Dragons campaign, I think, lasts like 6 sessions, according to like the most recent research done by Wizards of the Coast. And I'm not trying to be a naysayer, but you don't have to worry about that big bad guy right off the rip. You'll get to him. If the campaign's going well, you'll get to him.
NPCs in your starting area.
Yeah, let's get back to that.
And surrounding area,
yeah,
NPCs.
Let's get back to that starting location.
Yeah.
Leave room to grow. Leave room to add things and improvise. Say your players are like, oh, we're really looking for someone that can make potions, or I'm looking for a poison vendor or something. You know, maybe they're not right in town, but you can be like, there's a witch that lives out in the swamp who, she's not really friendly, but maybe you could persuade her to help you out. But you didn't come up with that. Don't come up with that like right off, like while you're coming up with your starting stuff. Leave some wiggle room, especially with NPCs, because your players are going to ask you about places and people that you have not thought of almost immediately.
Yeah. Especially if you have a map of the town that you're starting in and you have decided what every single building is.
Don't do that.
you leave yourself no room for that freedom.
Yep. Yes, but yeah, it's a great idea. Just print out a map, steal a map of a town from somewhere online. Don't draw a map out and just try to figure out stuff. Like, save yourself some time, steal a map from an official adventurer, turn Fendelver into your town. Who cares? Or Red Larch, or one of these places, Hamlet. Yeah. Have a randomly generated list of non-player character names, first and last names. You don't have any idea who they are, but when your players go to run into the busboy, the guy mopping the tavern floor, who they think has got information for some reason, you look at your little list, and bam, you got a name.
Alvin, Simon, and Theodore.
It's Bill and Ted.
And Brad.
And you can go one extra mile by having a list of like 1d20 attitudes. Roll on that, so you have the name of the NPC, you have their attitude, and if you want to get even crazier, you can have another d20 list of actors or actresses that they may sound or act like.
Resemble like, yeah.
Yeah, or they look like this person. So you have a name, you have a description, and you have sort of how they act and sound right off the bat. You just have to roll a couple dice real quick, and all of a sudden you got this little...
Gnome William Shatner.
I am trying to mop floor. My last piece of advice is you're going to want to have like a story-driven NPC. You want this one NPC character who can sort of guide them along on quests and things of that nature. Push them gently if need be. He's sort of there. He's someone that's very friendly to the party. Make sure it's someone that they like. If this is an unlikable character, it's not going to work. In the event that your players are meandering, just make sure that this is not like you inserting yourself as like a
Player
within the realm. Like, this is a character that's only going to exist for like 1 to 5 sessions. Maybe they're here. Maybe they get killed off. They tell you about the caves of chaos or the secret realm behind the waterfall that leads to the Feywild. Whatever, and he's like, I'm offering to come because I want to go on one last adventure before I die.
And he dies in the first adventure.
Sure. Kill him off. Have a bear just like tear him limb from limb.
In your starting area, you want things that are happening in the area that the players can take part in. Now you need some kind of problem. Something that is just taking place in the world that the players just can't really ignore, right? The players, like, it brings their attention. You always put those shiny things in, and those are the best ways to guide your players in directions.
These are called plot hooks. You want to bait your hook and hope that your players are going to bite so that they can go on adventures. That starting location is perfect to sprinkle with locations and areas of interests.
The bulletin board.
Sure, you can have a literal bulletin board of things for them people and places to talk to. That's a great idea. I've done that, and it works really well.
Thanks, I know it's a great idea because you did it.
Have them learn about magical MacGuffins. Have them learn about nearby dungeons. Have them learn about local folklore and myths, and then find out what they're interested in and focus on that to prep. Like, if they really want to capture these magical disappearing rabbits.
God damn it. Then have them just chase a bunch of normal rabbits around.
You were going to find one. Well, that was the thing. I was going to create an awesome dilemma with it. But yeah, maybe they hear about a unicorn in the glade that will grant a wish to someone that's pure of heart. Or there's a door in the mountains that will only allow you passage into its magical realm if you can answer its riddle. You want these sort of...
Those are the kinds of ideas that you want to come up with and you just have in your notes.
Yep.
And those are the ones that you can just sprinkle around your starting area. Those key points and key features where there's a problem to solve or there's something to do. And
make sure that they can find out about these things from anyone or anywhere.
Totally, yeah.
It doesn't don't assign these to a specific non-player character or a specific quest giver.
Only one NPC knows about this one thing.
Nope, never do that. Just be like, it could come from anyone. There could be in the library, they can be looking up through books. Wherever there is a potential place to drop a clue or another hook. Drop multiple hooks. Hopefully, if you drop the same sort of hint a bunch of times, they'll get the hint to do what you want. They're not going to.
Yeah.
They're going to want to chase the bunnies. You're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and you've heard about this game. You know that it is just filled with free will, and you can do anything you want. So they're going to do whatever they want.
It's true. You just got to make your direction the most shiniest.
If you really want to have your players bite down on these plot hooks, find out what motivates them.
Yeah.
If one of them is motivated by money, perfect. If they're motivated by magical items, sure. If they want to be heroes and save the day, sprinkle that stuff out there. You want to sort of tailor this stuff to your players, and once you get really good, look at their little backstories, tie it into their backstory somehow. If they have an extended family or something, maybe you get a letter from a sister saying that they're in trouble, or they get like a jewelry box and like, this is my mom's necklace, like, what does this mean? Oh, she did because we killed her. No.
Don't mess with my backstory. If you're going to use maps, find those maps ahead of time. Decide what you're playing on. Are you playing virtually? Look at Roll20, look at Foundry. If you're going to be playing in person, maybe you just want to draw out your map. Give yourself some time to draw out a map. You can type literally anything into Pinterest and come up with anything if you just attach battle map. Yep. Onto whatever you're looking for. Tavern battle map, backyard battle map, town square, town center battle map, whatever you can think of.
Yeah, you don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. A lot of this stuff can already be done for you. Some of this stuff, you could even find I know there's really good resources out there that you can actually just pay what you want. If this person...
Someone will make it for you in
they
a couple
will.
hours.
Well, not even that. They just have like a list of stuff for free, and they're like, if you want to pay me some money, throw $5, and you just got like 120 battle maps and world areas and stuff. Set your imagination on fire.
Don't forget that encounters don't always mean combat.
Yep.
As well. Make sure that any encounter that you've created could be solved either way, by talking, by puzzling, by fighting, right?
Sure. Yeah. If your players are really hell-bent on trying to talk their way out of a combat situation, don't force the combat.
Just let them try.
Let them try. If they have a great plan, let it succeed. Don't always just be like, nope, start rolling initiative. I have this cool combat encounter planned. That is this type of stuff where your players are going to start feeling like their actions don't have any meaning.
Even enemies and monsters have motivations.
Sure.
Monsters are hungry. If you've got a slab of meat, toss it to the slab of meat aside. Maybe they go for that and not you.
Yeah.
Just like feed their imagination by allowing them those freedoms.
Yeah, maybe you come across like a group of 3 gnolls and they're scared and angry, but they're actually just gnoll pups and you don't know, and they're looking for their mom. And if you can somehow communicate with them that they're just lost and looking for their mom. When you're prepping encounters, think about your players a little bit. Think about the 3 pillars of play. You have your social pillar, your combat pillar, and your exploration pillar. So you want to think about those things, and you don't want to neglect any of them, because I play in a lot of games where there's a lot of combat, there's very little exploration, and very little role-playing and social interaction. And I played in games where there's tons of social interaction and very little combat. That's okay, as long as your players are aware of what kind of game you're running. But if everyone in your party is a fighter, a barbarian, a monk, they're all punchy, stabby people, plan your encounters sort of around things that they're going to be good at, stuff that's going to be fun for them to encounter. If you have a wizard, make sure that there's stuff for the wizard to interact with that's going to require arcana checks or history of the world. If you have a druid or a ranger, make sure that they can track people. Make sure that they can be like, oh, have I seen these plants before? Is this something that I could use to
make sure that there's interesting things for each class to do.
You want to be able to shine that spotlight on each class and each player.
A lot of the times it's hard for those physical fighters and barbarians to feel useful in like puzzle situations, or like they don't feel useful in exploration. They don't really feel useful in role play. So you got to give them some instances where they are going to feel useful.
Sure.
Arm wrestling some dude at the bar that you need to win over, like that's using their strengths, right? Some puzzle where these large boulders need to be moved around on top of pressure plates.
Yeah, make a God of War puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. Like you need to utilize that person, otherwise they're just like You know, what am I? I'm trying to like engage, but there's
Yeah.
nothing here for me. There's no meat that like, oh, I excel at this. I can't wait to jump in. This is me.
Yeah, you don't want that player to just be zoning out during like anything that's not killing.
All right, so we've been through the perceptions of dungeon masters and over prepping, under prepping, right? But then also you're expected to. What do players want out of a Dungeons and Dragons game?
They want freedom. They want to be able to make
freedom.
all the choices. I want to be able to control my destiny.
And if every idea and adventure they want to go on, you say, no, that's not possible, and you're keeping them on the straight and narrow, that's railroading. Every player will say, you know, please don't railroad me, but, you know, what they want the sandbox experience. But it's kind of a catch-22 because they want to be guided.
Yep.
They still want to be guided, okay? So the railroad is there. You have to be good on your feet. The way I like to think about it is that it's not a train, it's a private jet. Because on a train, you're just sitting in your seat and they drive you to your destination. Nobody pays you no minds. They don't pay attention to you, right?
Yeah.
And you get there. Good job, right? But on a private jet, they make sure your needs are met. Make sure you're happy.
Sure.
You know, we are going to a destination, but yeah, they might go around some inclement weather, maybe, you know, go into some different traffic patterns. The way they get there is different every time.
Strap in now. It's a little turbulence right now. We didn't anticipate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Let's you know, we can all join the Mile High Club.
I like to think that the train tracks are in the sandbox. And, you know, think of how Skyrim is made. You know, Skyrim was one of those original open world sandbox experiences, and you're still guided through that. You know,
You don't have to do any of that main quest.
no, you don't. But you know, you're told where to go to do that. And if you want to take a break from it, you can. And that's exactly what happens in Dungeons and Dragons. They might be on your main quest and decide like, oh, something from someone's backstory, a character's backstory came up, and we're gonna adventure on that for a couple sessions.
Sure.
And then slap them with the main quest in the face at the end of that, and then they're back on track, right?
Yeah. I think player agency is really what people mean by being railroaded. When they feel like their actions and the things that they want to do no longer apply in your games, that's when they sort of the air gets knocked out of their sails.
Yeah,
And they're just sort
you
of
start to lose them.
they're a little defeated. So you're pushing this thing where it's like, ooh, the Ivory Knights of Lamora, they really need you to help them on this quest. But your sorcerer is like, you know what? I really want to go on a side quest and, you know, do something to calm down my wild magic sorcery. I want to be able to tame that. And this person that we talked to said that we could find this person and they could train me. And I think we should do that before we help these knights. But and that's decided. That's what the group decides to do. And you sit there and you get the flop sweat. You get the nervous flatulation. And you're upset. You internalize it. You're like, oh, this is not where I want the story was going. I didn't prepare for this.
Yeah.
So you think of something really crazy. You think of a crazy reason that they can't go on that side quest, and you pull them back in, and the knights are like, well, we're taking you hostage. And you need to help us on our quest. You'd be like, I thought you guys were pacifists. Like, it's like you literally have a brain meltdown and like that type of stuff. That is going to enrage your players. That is railroading. Try to avoid that. Keep your players are going to tell you what they want to do. They are.
This is the perfect opportunity to show that your world is alive and breathes and has consequences and reactions. Because like if they don't choose your main quest and they decide to do something else, that's the choice that they have made.
Sure.
Now, as they're on that side quest,
Yep.
think about what happens if they didn't do that.
Correct.
And just make it happen.
Absolutely. Have there be consequences when they ignore your plot lines. Don't punish them.
It doesn't have to be detrimental.
Nope.
Right? Like an entire town is obliterated, depending on the story. But
But
let them know that them not going on that changed the outcome, right?
changed the world. Yes, absolutely. It changed the timeline for sure. That is 100%. That is awesome to do. That is
The multiverse.
That's another great tip. I always have, when players come and go from a town, make random events happen. Make NPCs leave. Be like, oh, where's this guy that we always talk to? Be like, oh,
next town. Like,
he went on his, he goes on like a local trade route, every couple of weeks. He'll be back. Or there's a wedding at the local farmhouse. And at that wedding, it gets overrun by zombies. Like you can have random events happen that sort of keep the players on their toes. But again, it makes that world feel alive, which is a really, really awesome trick to pull. You're trying to add to the fiction. You're trying to add to the story it's a collaborative story between you and your players. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. I want to give you one super awesome tip for being an awesome viewer and watching all the way to the end. No matter how much you prep and what you prep for, your players will inevitably do things that you did not think of and you did not anticipate. You might have thought of 5 different branching paths, and they came up with a 6th branching path that you didn't think of.
The trick is going with it.
They're always going to surprise you, and that is the fun of Dungeons and Dragons. That's
because they come up with new things that you wouldn't have thought of, and you're like, wow, that's really fun.
Yep.
That's really cool. Why didn't I think of that?
Yep.
And let's go down that path.
Roll with those punches. If they have like this thing where like all of their ideas are pointing to this person being the culprit for something and it's not, change it.
Yeah.
Like switch it up. There's nothing saying you don't have to. It's not going to ruin your game, and it's going to make them feel smart.
The bonus tip that I have is to ask your players what they want to do at the end of a session. This is prepping for session 2.
Yep.
Or your next preceding session. If they're stuck at a crossroads at the end of your first session or end of any session, ask them what their plans are and give them a choice. Yep. I typically give them a choice. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Would you like to go here? What's next? Right? And that'll give you some time to prep. It really helps flush out their direction and what they're choosing.
Yeah.
If you can be on the same page for the next session. And they may not, you may start the next session and they want to do something different, but you're that much closer.
Sure.
To,
and I'm always transparent when I do that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, guys, I want to know what to prep for next time. You have this choice ahead of you. Tell me which way you're leaning. I'll try to prep that way. They might, like you said, they may not choose that way.
That's really how you get the sandbox.
Yeah.
That's the best. That really is the best way. It's like, well, yeah, you don't have to go down my path. Paths are laid before you. You choose. I'll prep. And that's it.
That's it. We love you guys so much. If you want to watch another video from your favorite basic glitches, click right around here. Boop. Bow. And if you want to subscribe, go ahead and click. Oh. See you guys next time.
Bye, glitches.